As you can see, nothing will stop the event and Malik. Thank you so much, Malik. Moving along, I'm delighted to introduce His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Al Kuwaiti. As Malik had said, your support has been inestimable in driving this vision, this approach to focusing on the power of quantum. In your role of Head of Cybersecurity, United Arab Emirates, we'd ask you to outline the UAE's leadership in building quantum-ready cyber resilience. So please join me in welcoming His Excellency.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Your Excellencies, thank you very much for inviting me. Honored to be with you all. Oh, mashallah, the great words that you're putting on me, I hope, inshallah, will be up to that stand and many of those things. And all of this actually is a blessing to Allah, first of all, and a blessing to our leadership. The UAE and the vision that we have put here is actually a translation of that great vision that they actually started a long time ago, having UAE as a number one in everything. Alhamdulillah, today in the cybersecurity, for example, yes, we are number one in cybersecurity, alhamdulillah, under the United Nations Global Cyber Index, and continuing to be on that perspective. And with that comes a great responsibility. Alhamdulillah, we saw that reflections to so many entities. One of them is Abu Dhabi ports. Who thought the quantum will come into up to that level? Thank you, Doctor, for many of those aspects. Thank you, team, for actually really bringing that in this matters, that supply chains, as well as that first line of defense in many of the things that we do, as a matter of fact, from those transportations to those communication to those networking. Alhamdulillah, that is a great, again, testimonial of that vision of our leadership. So we're moving towards those smart nations, smart cities. And I'm sure you've seen this, alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, in the capital of capitals, Abu Dhabi, where we've seen so many great transformations in adapting of AI. Our leadership have, alhamdulillah, now brought not only Stargate, one of the largest 1 gigawatt here in country, but also see that hyperscalers that we are actually bringing here. And those hyperscalers are enabling, empowering, working with us in order to ensure that AI is, as a matter of fact, is in every single sectors that we have, let alone one of those most important sectors is the maritime sectors. So including that, that's what brought us to those number one, alhamdulillah. This is what we are continuing in order to be in that number one, not only for UAE itself, but for the world. And not only for the region. Alhamdulillah, we exceeded that, and the vision is to really help humanity across the whole world and help many of those entities in this perspective. That's what we've seen in our leaders, alhamdulillah, always speeches and as well as engagement. But with that, there is always cybersecurity. There is always vulnerabilities. There is always some of those risks that we need to ensure our risk assessment, our risk mitigations, our cybersecurity standards are in place. And this is what we laid out in our national cybersecurity strategy, which actually focuses on so many things that ensure those aspects are really built in such resiliency. You've heard the great words about that resiliency. We need to have that. And quantum is helping in that build of that resiliency. From that prediction to correlation to actually really working in those aspects. We in UAE, this is just a snapshot of our national SOC. And that national SOC has so many SOCs connected into that perspective. And this is where it actually gives you a visibility of how many attacks we've seen in a daily perspective. Well, this is moderate, as a matter of fact, 200,000 attacks, and we've seen even more than that, especially with the geopolitical aspects happening across us. And this is what takes us in that responsible aspects of being, again, really resilient, really continuing monitoring many of those aspects, depending on what type of, again, threat actors or what type of government sectors that being actually targeted. Who's targeting us? And I'm sure you've heard of so many of those. There is hacktivists, there is so many state or non-state actors, but the main categorization that we actually have them as cyber crimes, cyber terrorism, as well as cyber warfare. The cyber warfare, I'm sure you know about those geopolitical aspects that are actually focuses on so many of those weaponization of viruses. Ransomware comes here when it comes into a wiping state. That's where we call it, again, a cyberware weaponization of many of those viruses. Cyber terrorism, I'm sure you've heard of misinformation and disinformation. I'm sure you've heard of deep fakes and things that could actually change the crowd as well as the loyalty of so many things that's happening across us because of a simple message, a simple misleading message in that perspective. And this is where we need to be that first line of defense. We need, as a human, to be, as a matter of fact, prepared to so many of those no longer seeing is believing. That actually takes us to even verifying, validating, double checking, triple testing, and this is what we are actually doing. And then there is the cyber crime. I'm sure so many of you have got scams or have got frauds or someone calling you to update your data or someone trying to send you a link to steal your WhatsApp or any of those aspects. And these are a continuous things that we've seen. And this is where definitely AI have added into that complexity. AI had made it is not easy to, as a matter of fact, detect any of those aspects. Especially social engineering is still one of the largest causes of those attacks. And we're talking here more than 70% of that is because of social engineering. Then comes the misconfiguration, and then comes of those vulnerabilities that we've seen. The quantum era has added a great aspect on this. Not only of harvesting today, decrypting tomorrow, not only from the processing that we've seen and the power that it will add in order to efficiently optimize so many of those aspects, but also that quantum has really opened a great opportunity to everybody, to so many SMEs, to so many another source of income here in the diversifications of incomes that we have. And this is where definitely it is really adding great value to us all. Well, this is why it become one of the major things that we are actually focusing on. We have released, as a matter of fact, the post-quantum standards that we are actually working on, focused on those 5 algorithms that we need to ensure our encryption is actually continuing. And inshallah, by next month, we are aiming at releasing some of the national strategy of a quantum as well in that perspective. So it is really becoming one of the major things that continuing. And again, Abu Dhabi Ports becoming one of the leading entities who are actually opening about, talking about quantum and how to leverage it into the maritime is really great to see many of those aspects happening. Now, the national strategy of those quantum definitely has so many pillars in those aspects. Innovation, one of those pillars that we need to focus on those innovation. We need to support those, alhamdulillah, SMEs as well as even the ecosystem in that aspects. And this is why you will see so many of those data centers, as a matter of fact, as well has been focused on many of those computing powers that we are actually interested in working with. Second is partnership. In that national strategy, we need to focus as well in the partnership. We cannot do any of this ourselves. We need those, alhamdulillah, in UAE, the great partners who are working with us. We need the community, more than 200 nationalities. We need everybody to actually put their hands and shoulder to shoulder in order to ensure many of those aspects are happening. We have a third, which is the mission. Our mission is to ensure safety and security for human, for systems, for many of those things. And this is one of the leading aspects of our mission, as a matter of fact. And this is one of the major pillars, as a matter of fact, as well in the national security aspects. And it's very important as well to focus on building the technology. We're no longer only using the technology. We've reached to a space where we are, as a matter of fact, really inventing this technology, using it into the best and really adding into it to be really beneficial to the whole world. That's what we are actually really enhancing many of this, even with AI. And I'm sure you've seen how AI is really changing and becoming the electricity of so many things that we are actually working on. And that quantum definitely will add into that post-quantum or even the decrypting aspects. And this is, again, one of the national security things that so many entities are, again, harvesting today, trying to decrypt tomorrow. Well, this is where we need to start, as a matter of fact, having those post-quantum resiliency, where our systems, our informations, many of the things that we do are really to that level. I'm sure you've heard of so many as well in the agentic AI era. Many of those orchestrators and agents and things that are actually working together are coming to that automation. We've heard the great words of that. We're working and we're moving towards those automations, and definitely having a nation of almost 11 or 12 million populations in that perspective, but alhamdulillah serving the whole globe in those aspects. One of them is an example of Abu Dhabi ports, serving more than 50 countries, or actually having a presence in that perspective. That automation. Automations with a great resiliency, automation with a great incident responses, or even diplomacy, or even a real quantum safe cryptology. This is what really adding a great value in that perspective. So what we are doing in the UAE in general, first of all, we have released, and those who follow, our standard and the national cybersecurity strategy, as well as the policies and procedures, are, as a matter of fact, oriented towards that quantum and AI. It has those 5 pillars we spoke about, from building the technology and the human factor into that, to innovating, to protecting and defending the main mission that we are actually having, and to the governing policies, procedures, legislations, and laws. There's a whole list of those, and to partner. Those are some of those legislations and policies that we have released. Many of them focus on, again, the encryption policy, the blockchain policy, as well as the AI security policy. Alhamdulillah, they are online. You can definitely use them and leverage many of them. They've released, as a matter of fact, less than almost 2 weeks now, and continuing to get many of the feedback in order to enhance them and become, inshallah, more pushing the economy, becoming more pushing the national security, and ensuring that resiliency. There's great initiatives that we already, alhamdulillah, working on that hackathon, especially in our cyber quantum conference. And this is where many of those students, alhamdulillah, and the ecosystem from the academia, they're working in leveraging that. Last year, alhamdulillah, we did the great efforts on this, and this year, alhamdulillah, we're as well pushing and doing a greater and larger scale in many of those aspects for the younger generation. And they're the one who will be, mashallah, using those technology more than we do. There is a great impact to those youth, to those Emirati experts, to the partnership, and to the startups that we are actually working on. And that is one of those startups incubators, as well as an accelerators. We have more than 15, alhamdulillah, startups have already, and you will see them if you're coming next week in GITEX. They are starting only from a senior design project in universities. For less than 2 years, alhamdulillah, they become, some of the valuations of them reached even up to $40 million, and continuing on that. And those, alhamdulillah, younger generation, a group of 3 people, a group of 5 people, really very proud in bringing, not only adding to the intellectual properties of UAE, but also to themselves, to the SMEs, to many of those. Alhamdulillah, we're proud of that perspective. The collaboration and the world collaboration, as a matter of fact, in the quantum and the cybersecurity is very, very important. And that where we have as well another platform where we share indicator of compromises, where we share threats actors, as well as information about any of those threats. And we have, alhamdulillah, this for more than 70 countries under the White House, and it was announced in the last recent visit of Trump here in the UAE, and we're the one who's building that platform. Then comes the National Security and Cybersecurity Operations Center, where we had it, alhamdulillah, in an automated perspective. It connects to so many sectors, to so many SOCs, and again gives a visibility of those attacks and how many attacks happening across any of those sectors. And again, leveraging the agentic dynamic type of aspects and self-learning and machine learning in this, with a great visibility and operation and command and control aspects into those agents so that they don't go into the wrong way. And alhamdulillah, we're proud to actually leverage that in many of those aspects. Our call for action, our main message here is cybersecurity culture. We need to adapt that culture. We need to ensure, alhamdulillah, we as the people are the first line of defense. We need to continue with those technologies, alhamdulillah, from quantum to AI to so many things. And I'm sure we are up to that, to raise the name of UAE and become, inshallah, the #1 in many of those aspects, especially the capitals of Abu Dhabi, alhamdulillah, is really setting the example of that. So thank you very much. Honored to be with you all. Thank you, Abu Dhabi Ports, for all of the efforts that you're doing. Thank you. Appreciate it.